lived by a simple creed: relentless work and laser-sharp focus. At 26, he had carved out a reputable business in the city's heart. His shop was a beacon of integrity and quality craftsmanship, a place where trust was the only currency. He was a man of unwavering discipline, avoiding anything that could divert his attention. His daily ritual was precise as clockwork. He unlocked his doors before dawn and secured them long after the streetlights flickered on. His life was a constructed edifice of simplicity, devoid of parties or late-night revelries. Most notably, he avoided romantic entanglements. He had seen how emotions derail ambition. To Armand, vulnerability was a choice he refused to make. "Love is nothing but a distraction," he told his friend Bilal. Bilal only chuckled, a knowing glint in his eyes. Or perhaps, Bilal countered, "You are simply afraid." Armand offered a faint smile and returned to his workbench, his resolve unshaken. But he did not know that a trap was already being set, its invisible threads tightening. The afternoon sun streamed through dusty windows, casting long shadows across Armand's antique shop. The rhythmic clatter of his abacus was the only sound, a familiar comfort in his solitary world. A bright chime shattered his focus. A family stood in the doorway, filled with laughter. Armand lifted his head, expecting a routine customer, but the air in the shop suddenly changed as they began to explore his shelves. Then he saw her. She stood apart, her elegance commanding the room without a word. Armand froze, the abacus beads forgotten. Her eyes held a quiet intelligence. When she touched a carved wooden box and whispered, "Is this durable?" "Yes," he replied, his hands trembling slightly. "It will last long." Their eyes met, and in that fleeting second, his professional composure completely shattered. The world, once a predictable sequence of inventory and days, suddenly felt vibrant. Armand realized that something profound had shifted, charged with an unexpected, beautiful possibility. The bell above the door chimed, cutting through the quiet of the antique shop. Armand looked up from his meticulous work to see a man and a young woman enter. His gaze lingered on her for a fraction longer than necessary. As he explained the history of his treasures, he noticed her eyes tracing his every movement. As he handed over a silver locket, their fingers brushed. Her hand did not recoil. Instead, there was a fleeting, electric pause before she withdrew. It was a series of tiny, unspoken gestures that stirred his soul. The man finalized the purchase and turned to leave. "Thank you," he said. But as they reached the door, she glanced back. A brief, radiant smile touched her lips. That night, sleep eluded him. "What is happening to me?" he whispered into the dark. The next day, he polished his brass telescopes with a fractured focus. He was no longer just a shopkeeper. He was a man waiting for the bell to chime again. In a dimly lit house on the outskirts, the family's warmth vanished, replaced by cold calculation. Rashid leaned back with a predatory glint. "He is exactly what we need," he declared. The matriarch nodded, her eyes analytical. Simple, innocent, and utterly inexperienced. A younger boy snickered, mocking the target's obvious infatuation. They saw not a person, but a mark. Rashid's voice turned chillingly serious. "This boy has money. His discipline proves it." The woman added with pragmatic cruelty, "He is emotionally weak. A vulnerable heart is an open door." They sat in the heavy silence of the room, the air thick with the scent of a looming trap. All eyes turned to Sana, the silent weapon in their scheme. "You know what to do," Rashid commanded. Sana hesitated, whispering, "I don't want to, but Rashid's voice cut like a blade. This is how we survive. Make him fall in love. Once he is dependent, we take control. One boy asked, what comes next? Rashid's eyes darkened into a chilling whisper. Then, we take everything. 2 days had passed in a blur of anticipation. Then, the familiar chime of the shop bell sliced through the quiet afternoon. Armand's heart leaped into his throat as he looked up. There she was, Sana, and this time, she was standing there completely alone. Sana stepped inside, her eyes darting around the cozy space. A slight blush touched her cheeks as she fiddled nervously with her handbag strap. Hi, she murmured softly. Armand straightened up so quickly he nearly toppled the display. Hi, you came alone? Sana nodded, her gaze finally meeting his. Yes, she said. I needed to buy something, and I thought. She paused, letting the silence hang between them like a delicate dance. Her eyes twinkled with a hint of mischief. Armand leaned forward, captivated and breathless, waiting for the words that would change everything. Finally, she broke into a radiant smile. I just thought I would come here. That was all she said, but for Armin, it was more than enough. It was a silent acknowledgement of the spark they shared. Suddenly, the quiet shop felt charged with a new, exhilarating energy. The fluorescent lights of the convention hall hummed with a sterile energy, a familiar backdrop to Armand's meticulously structured life. He stood at his booth. Everything was perfectly in its place. But then, the rhythm broke. Sana approached with a smile that felt disarmingly genuine. She didn't ask about market share. Instead, she asked, what drives you, Armin? Her curiosity was a spark in the gray room. Armin found himself caught off guard. He stammered, the corporate mask slipping. To his own surprise, he began to speak. He spoke of building something from nothing, and the relentless pursuit of perfection that consumed his lonely days. Sana listened intently, her questions peeling back layers he hadn't realized were there. For a moment, the busy hall around them simply faded away. So, it is all work then? She probed gently, a playful glint in her eyes. Armand chuckled, a rare, honest sound. Very little, I am afraid, he admitted. But for once, he didn't mind the interruption. The air in Armand's shop usually hummed with the dry buzz of commerce. Customers came and went like clockwork. But today, a subtle shift occurred. Sana, a regular with a perceptive gaze, lingered. She asked questions that delved into his soul. I have always focused on work, Armin admitted. No friends? She probed gently. Very few, he conceded. And no one special? Armand hesitated, then shook his head. Sana smiled. You are different, she said, the words landing with unexpected weight. From that day, her visits became his anchor. She listened with an attentiveness that made him feel truly heard. Her laughter was a bright sound that echoed his own quiet jokes. She possessed an uncanny ability to make him feel seen, truly understood, in a way he had never experienced. The walls he built were finally starting to crack. Slowly, like a seed taking root in parched earth, Armand began to fall. It was a gradual, inexorable descent into a feeling both exhilarating and terrifying. The illusion of his self-contained world was finally crumbling to dust. Back at the secluded villa, the air was thick with unspoken threats. Rashid paced like a caged predator, his footsteps echoing against the marble floors. He stopped abruptly as Sana entered, her face a mask of cold indifference. How is it going? He demanded, his voice sharp. He trusts me now, she stated, her voice flat and devoid of any warmth. A slow, predatory smile spread across Rashid's face, a look of pure satisfaction. Good, he purred. Make him fall in love completely. We need him emotionally blind. He watched her closely, waiting for the usual sign of her loyalty. Sana remained silent, her gaze drifting toward the rain-streaked window. The cold resolve that usually armored her heart had begun to crack. For the first time, the lines between the performance and reality were fading. A dangerous, unforeseen emotion had taken root within her, threatening to unravel their world. The hunter was becoming the heart she never meant to have. Inside the dimly lit apartment, the air felt heavy with unspoken secrets. Rashid's voice suddenly cut through the silence, sharp and expectant. "How is it going?" he pressed, his eyes fixed on Sana like a hawk. Sana sat, unable to meet his gaze. "He trusts me now," she finally replied, her voice a whisper of triumph mixed with unease. Rashid's lips curled into a satisfied, predatory smile. "Good," he affirmed. "Make him fall in love completely. We need him emotionally blind." The words hung in the air, calculated and chilling. Sana remained quiet, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She was a master of deception. Yet something inside her was fracturing. A subtle shift was occurring. For the first time, the lines between the act and reality were blurring into a dangerous haze. David's genuine kindness had begun to chip away at her hardened resolve, leaving her with a disquieting sense of guilt. The hunter was becoming the haunted. Armin was caught in a web he never saw coming. What began as casual talk soon became a daily ritual, a necessity he couldn't ignore. Without Sana, a void gnawed at him, leaving his world incomplete. He didn't realize his life now revolved around her, a silent, irresistible pull. Sana was a master of her craft, moving with a precision that never revealed too much. Her strategy was a dance of push and pull. One day, she offered warmth that made him feel cherished. The next, she was a cool, distant shadow. This calculated inconsistency was her most potent weapon, drawing Armand deeper into her orbit. Anxiety finally broke his silence. "Why didn't you come yesterday?" Armin asked. Sana feigned hesitation, murmuring she was busy. As disappointment washed over him, with a knowing smile, she challenged him. "Did you miss me?" His silence was the only answer she needed. The plan was unfolding exactly as she envisioned. A week later, Sana returned, but her usual vivacity had vanished. She was quiet, wrapped in a pensive, melancholic air that immediately caught Armin's attention. Seeing her so subdued, his heart sank with worry. "Is everything okay?" he asked softly. Sana slowly shook her head, her gaze lost in the distance. "No," she whispered. Armand moved closer, his concern deepening into alarm. "What happened?" he pressed. Sana confessed. "Our financial condition is not good. My father is in deep debt." Armand didn't hesitate. Before logic could intervene, he declared, "I can help." Sana looked up with feigned surprise, protesting. "No, I didn't tell you this for help." From that day, their relationship shifted. Armand began paying for her needs. Sana would offer a show of reluctance, her hands waving him away before slowly accepting. "You don't know how much this means to me," she would say with profound appreciation. Each time, Armand felt a surge of purpose, convinced he was finally making a real difference. In the dim light of home, the air was thick with greed. Rashid leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Sana. "How much has he given?" he demanded. Sana whispered that he was smitten. Rashid smiled coldly. "Don't rush it," he warned. His mother added her raspy counsel. "Make him emotionally dependent first." Weeks bled into months, tightening the invisible threads around Armand. He wasn't just attracted. He was emotionally enslaved. He began to weave elaborate fantasies of a shared life and a home filled with laughter. Under the soft glow of a street lamp, The words finally spilled from his lips. Sana, I think I... But she pressed a slender finger against his lips, silencing him. Don't say it, she whispered, her voice a silken caress. For Arman, it was a promise of forever. For Sana, it was the final knot. The trap was shut,